The cars Australians like to buy at the moment, big ones, SUVs, utes. They love them for a whole bunch of reasons. For our family, it's so we can take all the stuff and the kids to all the different activities that they want to do. For people with utes, it's literally a tool when it comes to work. It's the ability to move things around. They are big, they are powerful, and they're increasingly comfortable. They're like the utes that your dad used to drive a while ago. These are now big, powerful, fun family cars that you can also take to a building site if you want to. But despite the fact that the market is deciding that this is what people want to own, we know what the government wants you to own, because they can say they're doing something about a certain percentage of 1% of global carbon emissions. And that, of course, is a conversation about electric vehicles. Now, yes, they do not need petrol, but they do need electricity, and currently the electricity's got a fair amount of coal in it, let alone the environmental impacts of actually building or running the things. But that's what they want you to do. Places like the ACT are turning around and saying by the mid-2030s you won't be able to buy anything but an electric car, and there are conversations happening right now at the state government level that potentially certain vehicles may not be able to register if they're longer than X years old. Will it be 30 years? Will it be 20 years? Will it be 15, 10, 5? At some point in time, you might be able to buy a petrol vehicle to show off at a car festival, but you won't be able to drive it around at some point into the future as people believe this is the line in the sand that we need to draw. But as you know, this government, on the very day that they were increasing petrol taxes to 49 cents in a dollar, that produced everything that I just talked about there, including the lady who's sitting there in regional Australia, Lindy, who can't leave the house because she doesn't have enough money for petrol. These people were turning around and saying, despite the fact they were making it bad or harder for everyone in the country who had petrol in their cars, that the promise was that if you buy a new car in the next couple of years, and if you stand on one leg and bark like a dog, you'll eventually save this much money a year because of the reduction in petrol you'll be buying.
We know that by 2028 this will save average consumers on each vehicle each year over $1,000.
Now, again, you do not believe what these people say, you watch what they do. What they do right now is increase petrol taxes. What they do right now is introduce rules that will make it too expensive to buy the cars that you want to buy, while artificially cheapening the car you don't want to buy. Now again, as a petrol head, and I bleed red and I love all things brum brum, but I do understand the power of the electric vehicle. At some point in my life I'll end up owning one. I do understand their acceleration power. I do understand how cool some of them look, all the rest of it. But the reality is that until the charging infrastructure's in place, I don't want to stand around when I'm driving from one place to another for 25, 30 or an hour waiting for it to go from 5% to 25%. It's frustrating enough when it's your iPhone and you can leave the room and watch the telly, let alone actually just standing out in a car park somewhere, rain, hail or shine. But guess what? The $1,000 promise has now magically improved because, you see, the politics is working against the government because the people who are buying larger cars, particularly in the suburbs and further out, well, they're starting to get the Harry hits about this particular policy because they know what's coming. So I read today in the Channel 9 newspapers that the $1,000 saving, which will not be happening, but still, it's like the $275 power saving. Oh, well, there was a war, but there was a war when you made the announcement. It's gone longer. Doesn't really matter. Like the $275 on your power bills, well, $1,000 on your petrol is now apparently magically $1,800 savings on your petrol. New South Wales and Victorian motorists in the outer suburbs and regional areas could save as much as $1,800 a year under the government's plan to cap motor vehicle emissions for new cars. Who's done the analysis? Bowen. So Bowen, who made up the number of 1,000, him and his people, have now made up a number of 1,800. Because apparently you are stupid and you will fall for it. Because the people of Dunkley said, thanks for the cost of living cut of $14 a week on tax cuts that haven't turned up and won't until July. The government will spend $40 million on the marketing of the tax cuts that you don't have to apply for. They'll just turn up anyway, but are not big enough to change anyone's life. The same government that increased petrol taxes on every car that's on the road right now, who could cut it tomorrow but won't, are now telling you, Oh, stick with us. Mr Miyagi style, we'll just invent a solution. And we've gone from $1,000 to $1,800 because you're that stupid. You'll believe it. Casanova said this: transport and fuel costs are a big portion of the average household budget. Thanks, Scoop. Why don't you go down the hall and tell the Treasurer and tell the Prime Minister to cut petrol tax? We can and should give households more choice to be able to bring those costs down. Yes, you should cut petrol tax. And that's exactly what the efficiency standards do. They don't really come into effect until July the 1st, and then, of course, they don't really come into effect until 2028, when this mob's going for its third term in office. And if you buy the right car at the right time and the moon's in the right place, then you will magically save $1,000. Or no, $1,800. Whereas right now, people don't go to work. They're writing to the freaking Senate. Do you think anyone wants to sit down and write to the Senate? But they're writing letters to the Senate saying, I'm giving up days of work because I don't have enough petrol in the car, so I have to ration the days. You are choosing to make petrol too expensive right now. You could get rid of it completely. But go back to where you were when you came to government. 23 cents in the dollar, not 49. And if you have a look at the current petrol prices, I think some people might say thank you. Because right now, today, unleaded 91. And I know there are some people who go E10 and some people who go 98, but the bulk of cars, general, good old-fashioned unleaded, basically $2.30 up and down the east coast of Australia. Oh, but you'll magically save $1,800 if you trust me. Well, guess what, Chris? I don't. I don't trust you. I don't trust the people working for you. I don't trust your bosses, because you have an option right in front of you today to be able to show that you are willing to save people money. But what you are trying to do is to change the cars that we drive, because it makes you feel better. It makes the lobby groups that demand it feel better, and you get to go to international conferences or, like you've said before, host UN climate conferences here and say, Australia is magnificent because we've changed the number of electric vehicles from this to this. Again, when they charge faster and the opportunity to charge them more frequently, and they are cheaper, yes, Australians will make a choice. But the reason they are driving what they are driving right now, I'll give you the tip, mate, is because they're the cars that work for their family or are needed for their work. And I know that a lifelong politician like yourself doesn't understand what the word work means, but this could be people with an ABN who need to get up earlier than you, who go to bed later than you, who didn't get a pay rise that's their highest in 10 years like you, and they don't believe you. 1,000 to 1,800. What garbage. Cut petrol tax. And you'll do something for cost of living right now.